Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Your Soul Revolution. I'm so excited for my guest today. I have Sarah Hanson, and she is a transformation coach, and she works with people using breathwork, human design, and rapid resolution therapy, or RRT. Um, I've been friends with her for a while. She's a biz bestie. Uh, the only reflector I know, and she continues to reflect back everything to me. So I'm so happy to have you here. Thank you for joining me.
I was so happy to be here. I love how our paths crossed. Um, if you would have told me I would be like breathwork besties with, with somebody in Ireland, I would have been like, no, I don't know anybody in Ireland. So yeah, thank you so much
Yeah,
for
so let's
having me.
Sarah and I always go deep in conversation on all things that I just spoke about in astrology and anyways, all things transformation. So we're gonna maybe go a little deep today. Nothing too crazy. Well, I can never promise that. But
Yeah, we're not promising anything. We both have Scorpio energy in
get
our
ready.
charts, so
Get yourself a good cup of
buckle
something
up.
and get a comfy seat because things might get uncomfortable. Um, so let's start with how you found all like human design, breathwork, RT. Which one you found first, kind of, or as I believe how they found you, and how you decided like these are the things that
Yeah,
I'm meant to share with the world.
yeah. I always love I always love sharing this story because it's just so crazy. Um, because it literally did find me. It was just like here you go. Um, so yeah, it was in 2001. No, sorry. 2021. I was actually getting ready to start like a whole other venture. Like it was kind of like a fitness like a workout, you know, franchise thing that I was like really um all about. And I was like, I'm going to do this, right? And um got pretty far along in that process, and it wasn't like I had emailed the guy back and been like, "Hey, I just have, a couple questions before we move forward with this." Um, and then I didn't hear back for like a couple days, and I'm like, "That's odd." And then I emailed again, and I was like, "Hey, just, checking in, making sure you got my email, got my questions." Crickets, like nothing. And I was just like, what the fuck? Like, what? Why isn't this working out? Because I have been um, leaning in. I had, earlier in that year, I had quote unquote had my spiritual awakening, if you want to call it that. But I was leaning in very heavily to like personal development, like manifestation, like, all the things. And so I kind of had the awareness of like, all right, if this isn't working out easily, like if I'm having to like kind of force it, and at that point it did feel forced, like if I'm not hearing something back, then I was going to have to like, you know, put more energy into it. And I kind of sat there with it and I was like, all right, if this isn't working out as easily as I thought it should in my mind, then there must be a reason, right? And so I kind of sat with the question of like, is this really what I want to do? And when I got real with that question, I realized that there were parts of this new entrepreneurial journey that excited me, but there were also parts that did not. And originally I was like, oh, I'll just like um I'll get a partner. I'll manifest a partner in business, and then they can do all the stuff that I'm not really jazzed about. Well, that wasn't happening either. So I was just like, okay, maybe this isn't the right path. Like And so I remember very clearly sitting in my living room one day and being like, okay, God, universe, angels, whatever, like, if this isn't what I am supposed to do with life, then you fucking better show me. I was like, not like irritated, but I was just like, I am so open right now. I am just like ready. Like, please just show me, send me something. And immediately a download came through, you need to start a breathwork business. Like, heard it so clear. And I was like, what? I didn't know what breathwork was. I had no idea. I was like, what? And it's funny, I was thinking about this too. It was like I could just see the universe, like, calling in all of the little thing. It's like, okay, now cue the download, and now cue the hawk that's going to be flapping its
Oh,
wings
geez.
outside of her, her window. And like, I remember looking out and seeing this hawk, and I was just like, oh my God, like, what's this spiritual meaning of a hawk, right? And so, like, I Googled it, and, um, it was like, these are messengers sent from the spirit realm, sent when you need like extra guidance and extra encouragement to like move forward. And I was like, okay, like, here we go. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna like look into this whole breathwork thing. And then it was either that same day or the next day I opened up Instagram, and when I pulled up the app, the very first thing that I saw was a post from someone that I had been following for, a couple of months, but I just hadn't seen her content. Obviously, again, cue universe, like, okay, pull up the content. But yeah, she just had this post, and it was like free
Jeez.
community breath work. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, it's free. I have absolutely nothing to lose. Let's try this out. And so I did this. It was a virtual session, and I did the virtual session. And I mean, you know how breathwork works. Like, I was just like blown away. I was just like, holy shit, like, so much came through. Like, my whole body was like tingling. My I had the tetany in my fingers, and I was just like, this is insane. Like, this is insane that I'm creating this feeling in my body with only using my breath. Um, and so after that, I was hooked. I was just like, "Oh my God, yes." Like, and so I reached out to the person who had done it, and I was like, "Hey, I know, that I said I just maybe wanted to like join this and like see what it's all about, but I actually want to learn how to facilitate it." And she was like, "Oh, perfect. I have a facilitator training that starts next week." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So, yeah, I mean, fast forward, I did the facilitator training, started with breath work, just working with clients, only using breath work. And it was amazing. And I had been learning and studying human design since the summer of around like May of 2021. And so I was very familiar with, or not very familiar. I was starting to get familiar with all of that, because once I learned that I was a reflector, my whole world changed, and it. I just, I realized that everything that I'd ever been taught, like, in life, like, how to go about doing things, how I should, um, how my energy works, all of it was just wrong. It was so wrong. And so once I started leaning into my experiment with my design, um, and it was an immediate shift. It was just like, so, I mean, everything just started clicking. It was wild. And so yeah, so then I guess in early 2022 is when I kind of started like incorporating human design with my clients more. And then at the beginning of 2023 is when I found rapid resolution therapy, or RRT. And it's funny because that story I was listening to a podcast with Dr. Connolly, the founder of RRT, and I remember him saying, um, basically that it's his responsibility to make sure that the shift happens, right? It's like a lot of and he even said, he's like, a lot of healers will put that responsibility on the client, and it's like it's not it's not my responsibility. They were just resisting the change, or they weren't ready for the change, or whatever it was. And I remember being actually really triggered by it, and I was like, who does this guy think he is? Like, to take on so much responsibility for something, that I was thankfully far enough along in my journey that I wasn't triggered to the point where I was like, turn off the podcast and just dismiss it. I was curious, and I was like, oh, well, let me see how this guy, does take that responsibility. And then as soon as I learned more about RRT, I was like, oh, holy fuck. I was like, yeah, this this does give you the tools to take that full responsibility for the shift, to occur. And I just fell in love with it. And so I've been studying that. Um, I'm in their membership program and studying that. And it's just, I love how each of those modalities did find me at the exact right moment in my journey of where I was in my business as well. And I love how beautifully they complement each other, and how I can just like, I find myself a lot of times,
Mhm.
weaving them all in with clients, because what I have found is that it's never just like one thing. It's always like a combination of a lot of little things that lead up to a epic shift or an epic transformation. I think a lot of times people are looking for that one thing and and that
Mm.
quick fix. And it's, I don't want to say that it's not out there, that it doesn't exist. It just, in my personal journey and what I have seen working with clients, is that it usually is a lot of little things stacked on each other, compounding to, to make this massive change. So I love, I love bringing all three into client sessions. I love, um, how beautifully they kind of just flow with each other. I love the different perspectives that each of them offer. Um, so yeah, it's been a fun journey working with all of them and
I
learning
have
all of them.
so many places I want to go from here. I'm like, I want to ask this. No, wait, this first. First of all, I just realized we're both wearing black hoodies. So obviously we're in the same vibe today. Um,
We've got the same
but
energy
here's the
going.
thing. I want to ask this because I feel like, okay, so you talked about how these things found you, how you um, have created this um, career based on all of these things coming together, taking people deep in your Scorpio energy, like allowing them to experience transformation. But I want to go back to you talking about being a reflector. Um, and I know like you're a non-specific manifester as well, because here's the thing. I think that a lot of people see like, oh, okay, so Sarah did XYZ to figure out her thing, or she knew this wasn't a fit, but she wasn't sure what, and then it just fell in her lap. Like, that's crap. That doesn't happen. How does that happen? So I want to talk about like how you embodying your design allowed that to happen, as well as like you said, having gone through your spiritual awakening, being open already, because I think right, this looks very different for different people. And depending on your energy type, depending on your design, depending on how far you are, let's say, in your spiritual journey, like it could look very different. And I want to keep this podcast very real and not say like, oh, Sarah did it this way, so you should all do it this way, because I believe that's the problem. Like, we're all different. We should all be doing it differently. So talk a little bit about embodying that reflector design and how that allowed you to, because it is like listening to the nudges and literally like life surprising you and just kind of seemingly, hand it to you or be like, hey, hey, hey.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah. Um, so okay, so I was introduced to human design around May of 2021, and um, I had already been kind of researching this fitness venture, right? So when when it wasn't working out, when I really started to kind of feel that resistance and um, feel that okay, well, one, I wasn't manifesting, my partner that I thought I, would. Um, I realized, I guess maybe looking back too, that I wasn't following my strategy of a reflector. It I was the one seeking out something to do, right? Like, my next career path, like what I wanted to do. I was seeking it out. I thought that I knew what I wanted to do. And learning more about the reflector aura and the reflector energy is that's not how it works. I mean, none of us, we think we know, but we don't really know. And so I think when I stood there in my living room and was like, okay, you better show me. Like, I am open. Please show me. And I think that there's a difference between like the energy that I was coming at that with wasn't out of like necessity or fear. It was about curiosity. It was just about like I was tapping into the co-creativeness of it all because I was like kind of saying like, all right, I don't know best. Like I do need some help on this path, and then kind of opening myself up to those those urges to come through. And I did follow my strategy, um, or sorry, authority, um, when going into the facilitator training because it was so quick. She was like, "Oh, I have one starting next week," and immediately I was like, "Oh no, I don't have 28 days to make a decision on this." So I was like, "It's fine." I was just like, "You know what? Like, if it comes to me over and over again in this next week, then I'll know that it's correct." Um, and sometimes what I'll do is, I'll ask to see like angel numbers, like, okay, like, and so the price of the program was 1111. It was $1,111. And so I was like, okay, like if this is meant for me, like just show me 1111. And I ended up seeing that 3 times um over the course of the week, and I was like, "Okay, like, there we go." So, sometimes it's like a little, I don't know if any other reflectors do that when they don't have the full 28. Like, either I'll ask to see this, like, I'll ask to get, like, extra confirmation, I'll see how much it comes to me, or then I'll know that it's not for me because I know that something that is meant for me wouldn't ask me to like compromise, my authority in that way, like in making a decision. So, um, yeah, I think just really leaning into being carried, as Jenna Zoe calls it, and just like letting the universe guide me. And then once I started my business, everything was so flowy like that. Like it was just like I immediately got a client after I finished my breathwork training, and um it was just like it wasn't the typical, you hear about people starting businesses from scratch and like, how much blood and sweat and tears like go into it. And granted, there have been plenty of, maybe not blood, but there has been plenty of tears and sweat, along the way, but it's never felt
Mm.
hard. It's always felt like very aligned and just very like in flow, and that's how I always kind of gauge if I am like following my reflector energy, is that like one, well, and I'm innocence motivated. So if I'm trying too hard for something, that's like my first, okay, like no. I'm not supposed to try. Innocence motivation is just like, I'm just here to have fun and play. So, when I learned that piece of my human design, that was a big aha moment too. But again, just letting myself be open. I think that that's my biggest thing, is just like being able to stay open to the things that I'm being carried towards or drawn towards. And if I'm open enough, then they will come, and and then all I have to do is
Yeah,
just receive
I
it.
love that. Um, let's talk about, so you were talking about when you found out you were a reflector, it like changed the game, right? And I think going back to what I love about human design
Hmm.
is like everyone tells us we're all like supposed to be the same and fit into this box and do it this way and you should have this, and by the way, here's your checklist to complete in this lifetime and blah blah blah. But I think I heard Jenna say something so simple, and she called like conditioning all the stuff you became that was never you in the first place. And I just was like, oh my God, it's so simple. Like, it's literally like
Mm.
all this stuff is around us, influencing us. Like, do this, be this, do it this way. Like, this will make you cool. This will make you fit in. This will make you like yourself better. This will make you whatever. Right. And like, we just at some point have to be like, actually, I think I know best. like I know what's for me and I know what's not.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hardest thing in life, right? Is trying to belong and fit in versus being more of ourselves. So, what are, like, when you started embodying that
Hmm.
reflector and, your strategy and authority, like, what are some of the things you noticed, like, that fell away, or like that you were like, I've been doing it this way and I knew, like, that doesn't make sense anymore? I guess, what are the biggest things? Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, the biggest things that are coming to me right now, well, one is just like how my energy works. And so I always identified myself as more of an extrovert. And so in my mind, I just thought that I just needed to be around people, like, right? Like I like being around people. Like it's, it's fun. And then I guess knowing now, like, and learning about the reflector energy, like, yeah, of course, I like being around people. Like, I was like energized as fuck, like being around groups of people. But what I didn't realize is how important the alone time is, and like being with myself and giving myself that rest, because I was definitely in the thick of like hustle culture, like be all the things. Like, I had my son was born in 2014, and I was doing a network marketing business, and I was, and I look back and I'm like, oh my God, I was so out of alignment. But I was just like doing all of the things. And I thought that well, and this is like, I have a completely open G center too. So I was just like, I felt like I needed to do all of these things
Mm,
to be valued, right? To, um, you know, have that self love and I actually remember a conversation that I was having with my stepmom one day, and I was like listing off all of the things that I was doing that week. And it was literally like, I mean, I had like five things like every single day. And I was just doing an event, and like, this and that. And she was like, that's a lot. And I just like, I don't know why I remember this so clearly, but I was just like, yeah, I'm like superwoman. But it was like, I was saying that as like a badge of honor or something, that like that doing all of those
mm,
things like meant something about me. You know what I mean? And so I think that that was one of the biggest um things that I have taken away from just learning human design and learning about being a reflector is that, yeah, I do love being around people, but I also love being by myself, because that is when I get to
mm,
be me. Not that I'm not me out there, but it's like I get to just be in my own energy and not have the influence of anyone else. And so that kind of leads me into the second biggest thing, is that I am now very aware of when I'm being influenced, I guess you could call it,
mm,
by other energies around me. Um, and I mean, sometimes it's not all, I mean, no, I don't have to judge it, right? It's like if I'm around my friends and they're just like, "Oh yeah, let's go do this." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, let's go do that." Like, in that moment I'm like, "Yeah, I'm all about that." But there's definitely times too where I step back and I'm like, "Do I really want to do this? Is this really, you know, is this really what I want to do?" So I think that that's been very valuable for me as well, to learn when I am reflecting something, that's not really me, um, and giving myself the time to come back into my own energy. Um, I think those have
mm.
been like the two biggest um like takeaways. I mean, there's been more, but those are the biggest ones that are
Yeah.
coming
I mean, it just
right
keeps
now.
going too, right? Like we keep going deeper, keep
Yeah.
shedding layers that we never needed in the first place. Um, so you're talking,
Right. But I also love
go
the
ahead.
gift. Oh, sorry. I also do love the gift of reflecting, because I do think that that does, um it's very
Mm,
helpful, like, for my clients, because especially when I'm working with somebody one-on-one, like, they get to see themselves in such a different way, and I can, like, I don't know, it is part of my gift as a reflector to, like, help them see a different perspective and a different side of things. And um it has been very helpful,
yeah.
working with clients.
Well, let's go. So talking about gifts, right? So I mean, I know you've learned this through human design, but also just in exploring, going deeper with the three modalities that you use with transformation, with clients, with yourself. And I know we talked like earlier about learning your gifts, really understanding them, like our superpowers, let's call them, like the things that just come easy to us. And sometimes we don't even realize they're our gifts because we're like, doesn't everyone just do this? Like, what? Like, it's not just me, I'm not special. But talk about like how you've stepped into your gifts and how you've like even you know, realizing you're a reflector, embodying that, understanding the power of that in coming into a session with a client. Like at first it's not easy because you're like, oh, like I have this power, I have this gift, like I need to show up. And sometimes it can be hard to fully step into our gifts because it can be overwhelming or scary because we haven't fully owned them before. So talk a little bit about, I guess, yeah, you're like coming into some of your gifts, maybe what they are if you want to share the biggest ones that you've seen or are still owning or coming into. Take us deep, Scorpio.
Yeah, oh my gosh. I don't think we have enough time for this. Yeah, so obviously being a reflector is a gift. There's not that I mean, there are a lot of us, but we do make up, 1% of the population. So I was listening to a podcast like a while back, and the guest was a reflector, and um, she was just like, I think that the reason why there's not that many of us is because we can't help but reflect
Mm,
truth back to the person. Like whatever that is, like we're a mirror, and so we're gonna reflect it back. And she was like, I think that the majority of people aren't in a place where
mm,
they can see that truth and like be comfortable with that truth. And so I have had a couple of clients that weren't ready to
mm,
see that truth that I was reflecting back. Um, and it was earlier on, and now I just set the intention and put it out in the universe that I only attract people that are ready, to that are going to be a good fit for me to work with. But I look back on my life, like, when I was younger, and I mean, like, I had some really hard, relationships, like friendships and relationships. And when I look back, I think like,
mm,
gosh, that was just them seeing, their truth like through me. And but like I was the
mm,
person that suffered for it. You know what I mean? Like they would get angry at me, or they would, um, uh, you know, the relationship would end because of me. And then that would do a number on, on, you know,
mm,
my self-worth, or what I was perceiving as my self-worth then. Um, so yeah, but now I
mm,
fully own that gift, and I know that everybody is not gonna wanna work with me. I know that, um, I might rub people the wrong way, and that's totally fine. And one of the things I was talking with a client about this last night is one of the perspectives, um, through ROT that I love so much is the perspective of judgment. And it's like if someone is having a reaction to me, I'm not learning anything about myself in that
mm,
moment. It's about them. Like I'm learning about them. And so, um, yeah, it's just interesting to kind of like be able to like lean into that and, um, understand it in a way that
mhm,
where I am empowered by it. Because when I first learned, when I first started learning about reflectors, a lot of the information that I was coming across wasn't very empowering. Um, and so I had to do a lot of just like reframing and like shifting the perspective, for me.
Mm.
in how to make this energy work. Yeah. So, and then of course I have a whole slew of planets in gate 50. um, which, is just that's been fun to kind of, dive into that. And um the gene key is what's coming to me right now. I mean, because the shadow is corruption, for gene key 50. And I do have a way of kind of um sorting out the the corruption, if you will, through speaking and
Mm.
through words. um so I think I can just like understand things in a different way and then reflect it back for people, because they might hear something and I'm like, well, have you considered
Mm.
that they were actually like saying this? You know what I mean? So that's been fun. And then I guess the newest, or not newest, but like the thing that I've most recently been kind of leaning into, um, is numerology, and finding out that I'm a life path 11. My heart's desire is also 11. And so an 11 is a master number. And I'm still learning about this, but apparently it's just like, it's a very spiritual, intuitive, psychic, number. Like healing. And it's interesting too, because we just had the eclipse in Aries, and Aries rules my 12th house of spirituality and healing and intuition and all of these things. And I'm in a personal year 7, which is spiritual. And it's just like all of these themes are coming up. And I know that it's divine timing, and I know that the universe is trying to lead me down this path. And it's funny, we were having a conversation the other day about, like, I was like, I feel like I've been doing this for the last 3 years. And now I get to, now you want me to go even more, but I think that I do have more to offer the world, and the community that I live in. I think that I've
Mm.
only begun to scratch the surface and what I'm really like capable of, um, helping people with, or like guiding people to, or whatever you want to call it. And so it's like it's good it's like I can see the good and the bad. It's like, oh, I thought I had already done that, and it's like, oh no, there's more. There's always
More
more.
deaths and rebirths with the Scorpio theme again.
Yes. Yeah, with the Scorpio, yeah. Yes, I'm a Scorpio sun. We didn't go over all of that, but I'm a Scorpio sun, and I have Saturn in Scorpio as well. Um,
The lessons
so
keep coming.
all of that's fun. And I have a lot of, I know. So it's good. I mean, I'm here for it. I know that, like, I still feel very aligned, and I, I there's nothing else in the world that I would rather be doing than what I'm doing right now. Um, which is helping people. And it's funny because like every job that I've ever had, post college, because I went to school and I majored in theater. And so I was an actor for a hot minute after school. But every job that I've ever had, um, post college, the aspects of those jobs that I've loved the most
Mm.
is the helping people. And when after I had my son and I was trying to decide on a career again, that's what I kept coming back to. I was like, I just want to help people. Like I love helping people. And that's exactly what I'm doing now. And um it just feels
Yeah.
so right.
Like I struggle with the word alignment because, and even the word ease, because I feel like they're buzzwords now, but it is this different, like you talked about at the beginning,
Hmm.
when you, like things just fall into place for you, right? Like when you follow those nudges and when you listen to what's right for you and go there. And, like just thinking about you having potentially gone the fitness route, like it's easier to say, like, I'm in this industry and like it's a more physical thing. So it's like you're standing behind this thing that's like more known, maybe, or more people understand or get it. Again, you're kind of like more better fitting in with the crowd. But like at the end of the day, like it's our life and we have to, fall asleep at night knowing like I am fully being me. I am fully using the gifts, like whether it's woo or letting your freak flag fly, like it's a feeling of alignment and ease that like I feel like the words don't even do it justice. And I think that, like we said, like owning
Hmm.
your gifts is oftentimes hard in itself. And like especially, you talking about being a reflector and reflecting back to other people, like the thing I was thinking is it's not even all like bad. Like some people don't want to hear the truth of like, okay, you need to change. But some people also, you're like, oh my God, you're an amazing human. And they're like, nah, like some people aren't ready, like even to be told the good stuff, And so it's about, again, like tapping
Hmm.
uniquely into who each of us are and like being the weirdo. Like I've learned like the more weirdo I am, the more
Yeah.
I feel like me, and I don't care if I fit in. Like my like the Aquarius rebel in me, obviously, but I'm like, if everyone's going that way, I'm going this way. If everyone's doing one thing, I'm doing something else. Like if I end up in the crowd, like I'm in the wrong
Yeah.
place. um,
Right.
but
Yeah, for
yeah, I
sure.
so I want to talk because you have like three modalities that I understand and am obsessed with breathwork and human design and RRT. But like for people listening who maybe know one or two or none of them, like tell me, I think like you said, they all come together very nicely, and like taking clients through that transformation, if there's different things that come up, they fit together in terms of like what they focus on. I guess explain, especially for people who might not understand what some of them kind of do or how they're helpful, how you weave them together or the pieces of each that kind of help with the transformation, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. No, um I think a really good example is something that I'm doing with one of my clients right now, where we're kind of doing like a combo, like combo session. So like we'll do a little bit of RRT and then go into like breath work, or sometimes we start with breath work and then we do RRT. Um, and then of course I pull in the human design, and I even have with this client pulled in some astrology because she had like 6 or 7 planets in Capricorn, and I was like, holy moly. And one of those being her north node. And I'm always like I love where like astrology and human design kind of like point us in the direction of like, okay, like this is what your soul came here to do. Right? A lot of us are so focused on like the past and you know kind of spending our energy like, well, or thinking about like, oh, I don't want to do this. And I think I love the North Node placement a lot because it does kind of shed light on what your soul, came here to do. And so for her North Node being in Cap, I believe it was in the seventh house. Um, Obviously, the opposite of that was her south node was in Cancer. And so she had been in, in previous lives, she had been in kind of like a family unit, been supported by the family, by the tribe, like been taken care of. Like she didn't really have to go out on her own to like, you know, have success or like do the thing. Like, her role was very family oriented and like family conscious, like putting the family's needs, kind of first. And so now in this lifetime with her north node in Capricorn, it's like she is here to go out on her own and do the thing that she wants to do. And so just by looking at that placement and knowing that about her, and these are all themes that like she wanted to go over. So I'm like, okay, yes, we're on the right path. Um, so I was able to use the North Node placement and then bring in the RRT to clear a lot of the fear around like putting herself first, like not worrying about fixing other people's problems and what other people need and pleasing others. I was able to kind of work with that fear and clear that in a way where now she is very ready to like, quit her job and go out on, on her own and like find a more aligned career path. She's a projector. So, we talked a lot about not trading time for money, like trading skill and gift for money. Um, and it's just been such a cool, like we've only had 3 sessions, but they've been so transformative. And then like we go into breath work at the end just to kind
Mm,
of like lock everything in. It's almost like, we do the RRT and I share perspectives that are helpful and useful for her to understand, like, oh, this is what my subconscious mind is actually like thinking, or like this is how it's reacting, and she can understand that better. And then we go into breath work to kind of just lock everything in and like see
mm,
how the body feels about it, right? Because the thing that I love about breath work is like it takes you out of your mind and into the body, and you get to really feel like, does this resonate, without
mhm,
including the mind in it, which is great because I use human design and breath work a lot in combo too, because nobody is supposed to make decisions from the mind, right? We're all supposed to, either let our emotional wave, give us clarity, or, listen to the spleen or whatever it is. Like nobody's supposed to like sit down and like rationally think about things and like, make a decision. And so I love using breath work in the way to kind of connect people to their authorities, because it does bypass the mind and you do get into the body and you get to listen. Like we don't
mm,
we don't listen enough, and we're way too focused on um searching externally for
mhm,
things, for answers especially. And I'm not saying that answers can't come externally, but it's like the motivation behind that. Like if it's one thing to like trust yourself and and ask like, okay, like, what do I need, in this moment to, fix XYZ or whatever. Instead, it, consulting yourself first instead of going out and like asking, you know, family or friends or
yeah,
Reddit threads or like, whatever. It's like people come back to the power of thinking for themselves we place way too much value on the
Mm,
opinions of other people. And then we get upset when, when those things don't work for us. And it's like, well, no shit, because it's not meant for you.
mhm.
Like, that's how that person did it. It worked for that person, but it's
Yeah,
not going to work for you. You have to take the time to sit with, sit with yourself and get into your body and figure out what is going to, what's going to do it for you. What's the answer going to be
yeah.
for you?
I I mean, that's why I'm like, I feel like human design and astrology, which has come into the picture later for me, so I don't know it as well, but I feel like it's this, like, blueprint to, like, who I came here to be, and I'm like, "Why wouldn't anyone wanna know that?" Like, let's like, that's what we should be consulting, not, like, everyone else externally, and, like, it's just, like, we're
Yeah.
constant like, there's so much information out there, right? Like, you can search anything, like, if you are looking something for something, you will find it. Like, like, e even, like, Brené Brown says, I think, like, if you're don't seek, like, proof of you not being enough, because like you'll find the evidence if that's what you're looking for. Like the mind's going to find whatever it seeks, right? And it's just this beautiful way. I
Right.
mean, that's why I feel like your trifecta of modalities is like, I have this issue, okay, like get into the body, okay, this is how you tell what your body's telling you, and then it's like clear any of the bullshit in the way. It's like, yes, like check, 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 like let's go.
Yeah.
But I just think like, yeah, like there's so much information out there, social media, like the web, like anything, right? That you can find anything, and what turns, I think what's hard is when you see someone who like seems to be thriving or beautiful or successful or rich, and you're like, I want that, and then you think like that's my prescription, or I'm just going to copy paste that, but like in reality, it's going to
Mhm.
be very, I'm not saying it's impossible, but you'll have to force a lot of things. It'll be very uncomfortable. It'll be a lot harder, and it's not sustainable because it's going to like take
Mhm.
things that you don't have. Whereas if we figure out who we came here to be, like own our gifts and use those, it's easier to show up in the world in a way that does feel right and easy. And when you look in the mirror, you like who you see, and you're not like running on 2 hours of sleep 12 nights in a row. I just, um, yeah, I think it's just such a potent, especially the three that you're using, like combination of transformation. I mean, talk about like going deep with someone. Like,
Yeah.
um, what are you?
Yeah. And I know we've talked about this before too, like there are so many different options out there, and there's not a plethora of options so that you do all of them. There's a plethora of options so
Mm,
that you can find the one or two or maybe even three things that really are
mm,
resonating and aligned with you, that truly will get you to where you want to be. You don't have to do them all.
yeah.
Like there's a million different diets, and people don't, they'll go from one to the other to the other to the other, and it's just like you're not supposed to do them all. Like you're just supposed to figure out, and maybe you don't even do any of them, right? Like maybe you're just supposed to
All the
eat
things.
like the way that your body wants to eat, right? It's like it's just so fascinating. Um, and I think that people that work with me, like that's one of their biggest takeaways is that they walk away understanding
Mm,
how to do that, like how to think for themselves and how to decipher what's actually meant for them and what's not. And um yeah,
Giving them
it's
their
just
power back. Like, yeah,
it's exactly. Yeah, it's
yeah.
very empowering.
I think,
Um
like, even I think about breath work. Like, so I've been doing breath work for, I don't know, 5 years now. And I even got with, like, I'm obsessed. I will never stop. But I did get into this phase where it almost became this thing I was doing because I thought I had to. And like there's modalities I've done in the past where they were
mhm.
amazing for a while and then I was like, okay, I'm done with that. And like I think we have to allow ourselves to find the ones that are right for us, to let them be around for a while or forever. But like I when I realized that, I was like, that's not really why I got into this. It's the opposite of that. And so for me, I didn't
Yeah.
stop, but I shifted that back to, I do it when I need it, when I need to get into my body, when I need to shut off my mind. And it doesn't have to be this like,
Yeah.
yeah, checklist item, even with all these modalities, right? It's about like, how do we become more of ourselves and what do we find in the way and how do we like get help clearing that? And I think there's a power that comes from working with other people, and especially you see it in being a reflector because you are that mirror and you see the power of like reflecting back who someone is, and then with all your tools like watching them step into that. It's like, this is who you are, and now you get to be her. Now you get to let go of all the stuff that was never you in the first place, and now you get to transform and go live your best life.
Yeah. Exactly. Um and I love just like the RRT perspective of all of that too is like um we're in RRT, you're not really concerned about what's true. It's only about what's
Mhm.
valuable, what's helpful. I mean, and so I mean, hello, that's like the biggest permission slip is just to like let go of all the rest. Like, who gives a fuck if it's true or not? Like if it's not helping you, if it's not like moving you
Yeah,
forward in the direction that you want to go, then
yeah,
release it. Like it has no purpose. It's not
yeah.
serving
I always
anything.
think about with that, like that was such a shift for me. There's like several things like in RT where I'm just like, oh my God, it just changes the game. But like even like if you think about like the Instagram algorithm, right? There's people who like let it take their power away and they're like, I have to do this, this, and this, or like post 6 times a day and at different times and yada yada. And then there's people who are like, I don't give a fuck.
Mhm.
And they have like millions of views on their stuff, So like again, whatever you seek, you will find or you can find evidence of. So like who cares what truth is, like what do you want, what's useful to you, and use that, because I guarantee
Yeah.
there's at least someone else in this world doing the same thing, thinking the same thing, having the same belief, who has succeeded using that belief. And so it's just that useful shift is such, again, it's empowering because it's like, do what works for you and who cares about everything else.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. And I mean, and for those people listening that's like, "Well, I don't know what works for me." It's like, well, human design or astrology or, any of those tools is like a great place to start because like you said, like it gives you that blueprint, it gives you that roadmap um of, kind of where to get started. It's like you know,
Yeah.
it gives you a landing place to be like, okay, let's like start here. And then from there, you can do more practices and more modalities of just kind of, quieting the mind and like getting into the body and listening. I think a lot of times for people who say, well, I don't know what works for me, it's like, well, how like, have
Mm.
you gotten quiet enough to actually listen? Or have you just been focused on doing what everybody else is telling you to do? What social media is telling you to do, what the news is telling you to do, what your friends are telling you to do. Like, how quiet have you gotten to
Yeah.
actually listen?
Yeah. It's so true. Like, even when my life gets too busy or too crazy and like I'm not finding time for breath work or I'm not finding time to sit with myself, I'm like, "Oh, where is this thing?" Or I'm looking for clarity and then I'm like, "Wait, where am I creating space in my day for clarity to come through?" Like it's not going to come through while I'm scrolling on Instagram. So, that's my job to create space for it. So how
Yeah.
can we it's like people who are like, "I've tried
Mhm.
everything." I'm like, "And what have you tried?" And like they've tried one or two things. I'm like, "That's not quite everything." But it's just there's again, once you
Yeah.
as you said, a great place to start is human design or astrology because it will start guiding you back to yourself. It will start teaching you how your energy
Mhm.
works, how things work for you, and then it will like that muscle of your intuition, of your energy like will get louder and you'll uh, know what the next step is, right? And then it'll all just keep the dominoes will keep falling.
Yeah. Yeah, once you push that first one over, they all just follow. And I love sharing human design with, with teens or like younger adults. Um, especially before they have to make some of those more like
Mhm.
valuable decisions in life, like, where they want to go to college or what they want to major in or like what they want to do because it's like they're just they're just being they're acting upon what everyone
Mhm.
else is telling them they should be doing or what they think they they what they think will make them money or what they think will make them successful, and it's it's fun to share that with
Yeah.
with the younger
I think they're more
generations.
because 'cause they're like, "Oh, adults know
um
better than me," and so, like, you're more prone to conditioning at that age too, because 'cause you're like,
mhm.
"Oh, they're all doing this, so I should just do what everyone else is doing," or, "They're older than me, they must know the way," like, except none of us have it figured out.
Right, I was gonna say, except all of those adults don't have it figured out either. So it's like the blind leading the blind.
Um, I can't believe, like, we've already been talking for an hour. I do wanna ask one last question because you mentioned, like, your innocence
Yeah.
motivation, and we don't need to get into the details, but I think that we can learn a lot from that because, like, we talked today a lot about transformation, going deep, like, working through your gifts, letting go of your conditioning, and it can be a lot, but I think it's important to always and what I try to do and bring to this podcast, like, to bring the joy and pleasure back into that because, like, if we're not having fun along the way, like, what is the point even? So, I think, like, maybe just talk about it briefly and, like, how it has been a gift for you to see things that way and realize that, like, you do get to just experiment and have fun with it, and knowing that it's gonna lead you where it leads you, and it's always gonna lead you in the right way if you follow your design.
Yeah. Yeah, when I learned about the variables and motivation in particular, um, that that was a huge shift for me because obviously so I'm innocence motivation, so my transfer motivation is desire. And I think that it's always easier to spot or like feel yourself in your transfer motivation. And my whole life, I feel like I've just been in desire motivation. Like I can just like, because all of the, again, everything that I learned in school, everything that I learned in business, everybody was like, all right, set the goal, set the goals and, and go after the goals. And that's exactly what I was doing. I was setting the goals and I was trying, forcing, doing all the things to try to get that goal. And it was never manifesting for me. Like I would never reach it. You know, I was just like, well, this, like, there's something wrong with me. Like I'm doing all of these things and there's something wrong with me. Come to find out, I need to be doing the exact opposite. It's fine for me to have a goal, but I can put it out there and then I have to um detach from it. I have to detach from the outcome and then I have to just focus on the joy and the pleasure of
Hmm.
of the journey of getting there. And so I don't know if your desired motivation, maybe don't listen to this part. But I do think that there is a lot to be said for doing things for the sole purpose of them bringing you joy and bringing you pleasure. Um, I think for me, with the innocence motivation,
Mm.
it's just like amplified
Yeah.
probably, or like, on a steroid or two, where I have to be having fun. I have to be laid back. I can't be attached to the outcome. Like it just is. I'm just here and I'm, you know, like the innocent bystander, just kind of like letting things letting things happen, and they'll work out the way that they'll work out. But I'm
Yeah.
gonna have fun either way. Like whatever the outcome is, like I'm having fun
Yeah.
no
I
matter
just I
what.
always say, like, actions speak louder than words and energy speaks louder than action. So again, I think the energy of joy and fun and excitement, like, when we infuse that into our life, even when it's, I'm a fan of even like comic relief. I'm like having a shitty day and I'm like, I just have to crack a joke to a friend because, like, you're never going to get out of this alive. So, like, you might as
Yeah.
well have fun.
Exactly. For sure. Yeah, that's why I love Instagram so much right now, is because the algorithm like knows me so much. Like it only shows me like exactly what I want to see. So like if I'm having a shitty day, like it'll show me like videos of puppies or like pandas falling out of trees or like you know, like doing something silly,
Yeah.
or like birds playing peekaboo or whatever. It's just like, yeah, that makes me laugh.
It's
Like that
so
brings me
it's
joy.
so funny.
It's
Like, my
fun.
boyfriend's like never on Instagram. He hates it. I'm surprised. At some point he'll probably delete it. And I was like, my relationship to it has changed over the years. Now it's just like with business, and I love like having a platform to be out there and connecting with other people. But I have curated my feed, and I
Yeah.
forget, it was like a couple weeks ago we were comparing, and like he's like, is that even the same app? Like mine's like dogs, cute puppies, and like human design and like positive things and like nothing triggering or whatever. And
Yeah.
his is like all the crap that I
Yeah.
would never see. And I'm just like proud of myself for like, this is what I'm creating over here
Yeah.
in my
I
in my
curated this.
unicorn world. Like, that's what I'm creating, and it is what it is.
Exactly. Oh my God. So funny. I know that's why I don't really get on TikTok, because the algorithm, I guess, hasn't figured me out. So it just shows me like all of this random shit. And
Yeah.
I'm like,
I
I
have
don't
not
want to see
gotten on
that.
that train yet, and I mean, the rebel in me anyways is like, no.
Yeah.
I kind of just hope it's canceled in the States. Like, I don't even have to
Yeah.
deal with it then. Um, but yeah. So, Sarah, where can people find you on social media, or a website or anything if they want to work with you, learn more, just follow your amazing energy?
Yeah. So I am only on Instagram. It's at Shifts with Sarah. Um, Website is shiftswithsarah.com. Right now it just takes you to my Calendly, so you can just like read about the services that I offer. Um, if you are listening to this and you are local in the Jacksonville, Florida area, like I do beach breath work um, at the Ponte Vedra Beach, and yeah, you can just reach out, send me a DM,
I am gonna
read
one
about
day
what
I
I
will
do
show up to your beach breath
if you
work.
need.
I'll be like, I'm here.
Oh my God, I love that.
One day. No, yeah,
Don't tell me you're doing it either. Like, just show up. That would be amazing. Because obviously my
yeah.
reflector signature is surprise, so that would be like the best surprise ever. Just to have you show up.
Amazing. Well, I'll put all of that in the show
But
notes so you guys can find her. And if nothing else, you should definitely follow her because she's someone you want to curate your feed with. And if you want to go deeper into anything we
yeah.
talked about today, she is the woman to take you there. So thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's always a
And
pleasure to talk with you.
to everyone else, we will see you in the next episode. Bye for now.